Hello, welcome everyone. Kaya Wanju. This is our final information session on the changes to the OPGGS safety regulations and the amendments to the OPGGS Act. I'm presenting today from Burraloo on Noongar Budja country, and I acknowledge the Whadjuk people as the tradition custodians of the lands I'm on, and I pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to extend my respect to anybody of First Nations culture who's participating with us today. We're just starting to kick off, and I'm aware of people slowly joining as we go along. So today's final session I will be hosting. My name is Amanda Nardi-Wallace, and as with our previous information sessions that we've held, this session is going to be recorded today and made available to those who are unable to be with us online at the moment. I'd like to thank everybody for making the time to come along and have this presentation with us today. It's intended to be a general FAQ session, so I'll keep most of it to a general questions from yourselves to our NOPSEMA regulatory specialists who are joining with me online today. But I'll commence with a short recap of what we've been covering so far for the changes to the safety regs, and then I'll open the floor up to general questions. If there's anything we are unable to answer for you today, we will take it on board and we'll come back to you offline with any responses to those questions. So I will jump straight into giving you a little bit of background as to the safety regulations, how they came to be. So there was a revision that was held by DISA that started in 2021. So it's been a long time coming. You can access some information about that review and what different submissions came into that from the DISA website. And I've included links through the presentation, which will be available online for anyone who wants to look at those post this session. But in summary, the changes are really intended to improve the safety and strengthen the safety enhanced offshore worker outcomes. So a lot of changes were brought into the new regulations and into the amendments, and they broadly cover themes such as strengthening the roles of the HSRs, general workforce health and wellbeing, improved reporting on sexual harassment and psychosocial health, modernising the regulation of diving, a new mandatory design notification scheme, a new vessel activity notification scheme, some general administration on the safety cases and also on operators and title holders, clarifying some terminology around proposed operators, and then some other general improvements along the way as well. So what happens once the bill is passed and these reviews are undertaken is we move into what we call our implementation phase. And in here, there's really two sort of roles that are operating. There's the role of NOPSEMA in here, which is as a regulator. We have our compliance strategy available online. Again, the link is provided in the presentation, and we really have a few different areas under our legislative remit that we need to cover. Part of that is the education and promotion, which has been what these information sessions are about, and then our regular role as a regulator in terms of assessment, compliance, monitoring and enforcement. So we do not have the control of the legislation that comes into being. We participate the same as industry does in consultation with the policy agency DISA. And the final result in the regulations and legislation is then passed to us the same as it is to industry. Once it is announced, then our role really does move into how we're going to implement those changes as a regulator and how we can communicate that out. So for us, it's predominantly about making sure we have a good understanding of the changes and how they impact both industry and how we currently regulate, and then revising our guidance and available information, our policies and procedures and our forms that are going to align with those changes and then help us communicate that out to industry. We do still work within a objectives-based, risk-focused regulatory regime, and that means that it's not a prescriptive one. So the guidance and the information that we put out, it can't tell you exactly the things that have to be done to adhere to the legislation, because it's ultimately the responsibility of those in industry to demonstrate how they are mitigating their risks and how they are intending to stay and maintain their compliance within that regulatory regime. It is a very broad industry that we work within. Our stakeholders are all quite different. While there are some similarities across the board, every activity is going to pose its own unique scenario and its own challenges as to how it needs to address the safety and the risks issues that it's dealing with. And those are what we capture within our permissioning documents. So because of that uniqueness, the education and the guidance that we can put out still really needs to be at that broad brush level. And in quite many cases, it is the starting point for us to have further discussions with you and talk through the more specific details related to your specific situation. So to cover back on what we have been presenting so far, we kicked off our information sessions looking at the big ticket items of the safety cases and how they're changing, as well as the changes to the HSRs. So there was quite a lot of clarification of some of the terminology that we had in the new regulations. We touched on quite a few different areas around what the new revisions will mean for safety cases, how the different notifications about dangerous occurrences and things would operate, the new requirements around reporting, around sexual harassment, bullying and harassment, and as well on the role of the HSRs and how that's been strengthened around training, the safety management related documents and HSR registers. So if you do need to see an update or a recap on what we covered in those, the information sessions are still available online, and we will keep them up there for another couple of months to give people opportunity to review them if they need to. Our next session in April was specifically looking at the new systems that came into play, which is the DNS and the VANs. So in that, the intent behind these ones is really about getting that early engagement with NOPSEMA when it comes to the DNS and trying to have that communication happening at that initial design phase of the project so that we can set those boundaries early and make sure that design is considering reducing safety risks to a LARP. The other aspect of the other topic that we covered in the April session on the vessel notification scheme, this was really about covering when a vessel ceases or becomes a facility or an AOP, and that we have improved reporting on when that actually occurs. The last session we held, the May session, this was quite a big one, and a lot of communication and feedback came around here, and this was on the notifications and reporting changes. So there were quite a few changes that happened in the legislation over what needs to be reported, and some of it was just clarifying things that we've previously asked for. Some of it was new content as well. And as part of that process in here in NOPSEMA, we've taken the opportunity to revise the reforms that we have into reporting and streamline those into single reporting forms that are going to combine the safety, environment and well integrity for our 3 and 30-day reports. But also we've got the new monthly operational activities report, which is replacing the previous form that we had online in how to do the reporting there. So in all of these sessions, FAQs were also produced out of them, and they've been added to our website, and we've made all of the presentations available as well online. This final session was put in place because we now have the regulations have come into effect as of last week, and this is really an opportunity to update you on the fact that the information has been made available. We have new guidance material now available online, and that you can start to actually source the information from there and then make your individual communication with us as needed moving forward. So a couple of some key messages here, and I do have Chris online. He may want to jump in for anything in this part, but the key parts we wanted to flag here around the safety cases is that all new and under assessment safety cases that are in at the moment will now having to be adhered to the new 2024 regulations. So if you do have any questions or concerns onto that, please be in contact with your focal points here in NOPSEMA. And we'll also let you know that all the new guidance material is available online, and you can find out what you need to do to meet those requirements in that new guidance. In terms of the communication that we have out there and what is still to come, you can go to our dedicated page, which is still on the website, and we'll maintain that for the next few months, which has got links to all of the new regulations and the amended Act. It also has all of the former information sessions available to you on there, but it also lists the documents that have been revised and are now circulated out for feedback or have been finalised and are published on our website. We will maintain the FAQs on the page and any links to new modified documents on this page for the next few months. But moving forward from that, as we move into business as usual, you would need to visit our safety pages or the document hub, which is where you can navigate to the topic related information and find the guidance notes and forms and materials that you're after into there. So that is the primary location that we publish our information. And as we move to the regulations being in place, this is where you'll need to go to get your information moving forward. You are always able to contact us here at NOPSEMA. You can speak directly to your focal points. If you aren't sure on who you need to contact, you can also send communications an email and they will redirect you to the appropriate team as needed. But we do like to always reiterate, we don't necessarily have all of the answers in the guidance notes and the guidance material that we have out, because as I mentioned, it is such a broad industry and there are a lot of different scenarios. We do need to work closely with you as industry and talk about specific examples so that we can continue to improve and continue to offer feedback and new guidance material. We are committed with the safety regulations to continuously reviewing what we've put out over the next 12 months so that we can take into consideration anything.
So we just lost your audio, Amanda.
Amanda, you've lost your audio, hun.
I think you're on mute.
That's it.
Excellent. Thanks for that. Sorry, not sure what happened there.
That's okay.
As I was just wrapping up there, any of the feedback that we have received through that consultation process, we're also going to be making that available on our website in the coming weeks, so you can see what sort of things we did receive and what we were able to address or not address in that feedback. So please keep in contact with us, communicate any questions that you have. But for now, I'm going to open it up to the general communication and questions, and we'll see any concerns that we might have to address. Okay, looks like we've got a question from Graham. I'll open that up to you.
Sorry, I'm back. If you were waiting for me to answer your question, instead of hitting mute, I hit leave meeting, so that was handy. Graham Bow-White. So question regarding 5-yearly revisions and submission timing for that. So appreciate the regs have clarified the submission deadlines for 5-yearly submissions of safety cases, and it's going to be a fixed date every 5 years moving forward. Unfortunately, the wording in the regs work well for new facilities. So it says when it was first accepted by NOPSEMA under Section 226. So I work for a client that had or has a facility that was originally submitted and accepted under the MOSOF regs on the PSLA, and then was resubmitted for a 5-yearly update when the OPGGS regs came out, which was a different reg than 226 in terms of numbering, and a different date. So there's sort of like 3 or 4 different dates that could be used as the 5-yearly trigger, depending on whether you use original submission under MOSOF way back in the day, or the original submission when PSLA, the OPGGS regs came out, or 5 years since our last 5-yearly submission, and if that's going to be the 5-yearly date moving forward. So I was just after clarity on 5-yearly submission dates for existing facilities.
Yeah, thanks, Graham, for starting with an easy one. I would suggest that this goes back to what Amanda was saying about every situation having its own unique characteristics. I suggest that you get in touch with your focal point inspector and work something out there. I'm sure we're amenable to working out a pragmatic answer to that question.
All right, so it's pretty much just going to be a case-by-case basis, and I assume to ensure that we get coverage under the regs, given there's civil and strict liability penalties associated with it, that we have to get written agreement on what that date is for moving forward.
Yeah, I'd suggest that'd be a good idea. But go talk to the focal point and work out something pragmatic. I mean, you've got a range of dates there that can be looked at, and we can work it out.
Yeah, so we sort of had that conversation already and have verbal advice, but the verbal advice was that that person's interpretation was a particular date, and I'm just wondering how that's going to align with regulatory compliance moving forward, if it's just one person's interpretation of, and whether that's subject to change moving forward. But yeah, we'll get I'll look to get some written advice on that then. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Graham.
Okay, I'll move to Darren. Sorry, we had someone come in.
Sorry, it's Adam from Woodside here. I was just wanting to clarify just on the back end of the answer. Within the letters of acceptance letters from NOPSEMA, there's often a stipulation of the next 5 yearly that's due, even if it's an interim submission. So I just wanted to confirm with Chris that if that's the current 5 year that NOPSEMA have on file, that will remain in place, or is that what you're suggesting we discuss with the inspector on a case-by-case basis?
I think, Adam, that what you should do is go back to the initial acceptance, if it's an acceptance in the life of NOPSA, I suppose, NOPSEMA, and work off that basis to make sure you're aligned with the regulations. But
okay,
then
thank you.
Worth having a conversation then with the focal point to see that we're all on the same page.
Okay, Darren,
Okay,
we'll
thank
jump to you.
Thanks, Amanda. Darren Griffiths from Amplitude Energy. It's a question in relation to operators like ourselves who operate offshore Victoria, where NOPSEMA is the regulator on behalf of the Victorian government. I've noticed with the new requirements on the monthly operational activity report, harassment and bullying incidents and so forth, there aren't the equivalent regulations in the Victorian regulations. So I was just wondering expectations in terms of if those triggers happen to occur in state waters, are we expected to report that under the new regime, or are we having separate reporting expectations depending if it's in state or Commonwealth waters off of Victoria?
Yeah, Darren, it's Chris. We regulate Victorian state waters. So the expectation is that you would report under the Commonwealth Act. Okay,
so even though those provisions aren't in the Victorian reg, still report under the Commonwealth?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great. Now, I don't have a name for here. I just have the DP operator for Equinox.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's Chris Donnelly. I'm the rig manager for the Transocean Equinox here drilling in Otway Basin. I have a question around the vessel activity notification document. Have I got it correct in my mind that each time we move from one well to the next well, we put in a vessel activity notification that we are ceasing to be an operator, and then we put in a separate notification that we are becoming an operator again when we come to the next well? Is that correct?
Yes, but you're not ceasing to be an operator. I guess it's the ceasing to be a facility for the actual module you're talking about. But yes, basically, it's when you start operating under your safety case, or you are as a facility under your safety case, you need to notify us. And then when you cease to function under your safety case, then you need to notify us as well.
Okay, so my question is around, we have multiple wells for the same customer under the same, so we have the base safety case and a safety case revision approved for that customer. When we are moving from one well to the next well for the same customer, is there need to notification, is a vessel activity notification required?
I mean, are we talking skidding between wells, or are we talking pulling up anchors, moving a distance?
Moving from one anchor pattern to another, and I'm talking maybe 2 nautical miles apart.
I think that's one I would want to go into a little bit more detail and discuss with some colleagues.
Okay.
I mean, in theory, you would stop operating as you're towed from one location to another. But if you're within the same operations under the safety case, yeah, I think I'll need to get back to you on an answer for that one.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll jump to an online question in the comments from Skip, and then we'll come back to Ben. So from Skip, we've got, what causes a construction or IMR vessel to cease being a facility or associated offshore place? Operator has to notify NOPSEMA in writing of the point in time when this occurred using VAN's new form, but forms, regs, guidance are silent on what the trigger is for this. So Sam, I think we're going to you again.
The trigger for when you cease to be a facility or an AOP is when you cease doing operations in line with the regulations and the Act.
Just playing that back, if I can, Rod, because this has been a bit of source of confusion for some operators and vessel contractors. So it's still that when you go from one activity that means the vessel is a facility to another activity that means it's not a facility or means that it's now an associated offshore place, then the VAN's notification goes in, and there's also, potentially you may be changing operator as you from the vessel contractor to the host facility, and then when you go back to another activity the next day, or the next shift, and you're back at doing a facility activity again, so you've changed operator of the vessel again. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, I think so. Sorry, it's Sam here. I'm just in a room with Rod, so we're using.
Oh, sorry, Sam.
No, it's okay. Yes, I think I got you right. When you can be acting as a facility under your own safety case, doing a piece of work, you complete that, then you become a vessel again. So you would notify us as ceasing, and then you may become an AOP under a host facility's safety case. The operator of that facility would then need to notify us that you are an AOP under their safety case. And then when that ceases, they would need to notify us again.
And so you're also, the operator's representative, the chain of command, who's responsible for the permit system, who has to notify incidents. All of that is changing potentially, day to day or shift to shift, depending on what the vessel activity is at that particular time.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Thanks, Skip. Ben, we'll jump to your question now.
Yeah, hey, how's it going? I had a similar line of question on the van. So our vessel could be working across, 3 or 4 different fields for the same client. So when we turn to, navigate between fields, will we then have to submit a notification going between fields, or could we just do one notification to say that we're, becoming a facility across 3 or 4 different fields for that span of time?
The way that it's written is that you need to notify us which title you are working on. So if you're operating under your own safety case, you're a facility under your own safety case, there's still a field where you need to tell us which title area you're working in. So if you are moving between title areas, you'll need to cease and then start again. So there'll be forms to change.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Understood. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Just following up on that question, Amanda, sorry. So,
Yep.
for example, if we are moving between fields so for the same operator, and it's a 2-day transit between fields, so we cease to be in a facility and then we're transiting to the next well and we become a facility again, what's the status during the transit?
So you will be going operating under the NAV Act rather than the OPGGS Act. So you will become a vessel.
So we're not operating under the safety case during the transit. Is that what you're saying?
No. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Kat and then we'll go to an online question.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. I guess I'm just wanting to clarify a point similar to some of the previous attendees. I work for an offshore construction company, so we may well duck in and out of facility activities on a daily basis. And is the expectation from NOPSEMA that we would be submitting a becoming and ceasing VANS notice every time that happens?
Yes. To be short, Kat, when you become and cease to be a facility, or it is the vessel or the vessel operator to submit the VANS notifications. And if you are operating as an AOP under a host facility safety case, it is the operator of the host facility who makes the notifications.
So just along those lines then, Rod, thank you. So say we're doing a facility activity for 4 hours of a day, and the rest of the time we're not because of weather or requirements from client or whatever. That, like, how much of a day triggers the reporting if the majority of the day is a non-facility day?
Yeah, the regulations and the Act don't really define a sort of a minimum time period. So on the face of it, it would be for that 4 hours you were acting as a facility.
Sam, sorry, Skip Hughes again. I guess, is there any intent to provide some more guidance on how NOPSEMA see this working practicably? I know there's other areas where the regs are maybe silent, but NOPSEMA have provided their interpretation in guidance, and particularly around the piece of changing from a facility to an AOP for a vessel. When you look at the guidance you've just issued around, how do you work out who the operator is and what NOPSEMA expect the operator to exercise, you're talking about a fairly significant change in the level of control by the oil and gas company of the vessel, and the level of oversight that the company's site rep would need to have of the activity on the vessel. And if that's, changing frequently, there's a large potential, I would have thought, for confusion and breakdown, and potential of introducing some causes of issues or incidents if this is chopping and changing on a shift or even hourly basis. So I think there might be a lot of value in maybe a bit more discussion and establishing a common understanding on how the intent of the regs can be met, without needlessly complicating the safe management of activities on these vessels.
Pardon me. Yeah, I mean, given the number of questions we've just had on this subject, I think some further guidance on the timing, etc., is warranted. So, and I think some maybe more specific consultation with the likes of yourself and Kat, etc., would be good. So yes, I will take it on, and we will try and pull together some more detailed guidance, particularly around the timing of the notifications, etc., and activities. Yeah,
Great, thank you.
no problem.
I'm assuming, Kate, you're on the same topic, so we'll stay with you before I jump to the HSR questions online.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. Yes, I just did have one final question. Now that we're going to be required to notify becoming and ceasing to become, or ceasing to be a facility on an ongoing basis, does that negate the requirement to have to complete the safety case levy remittal form, which is primarily around when you weren't and when you were a facility? Like, will that go?
Thanks, Kat. Yeah, I got your question during the consultation online, and I'm still working on that question. So you might just have to bear with me for a moment, and I will get back to you with an answer to that question. Sorry,
No
I don't have it at the moment.
All good. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so we've got a couple of questions in the chat. The first one's from Adam, which is on Friday, NOPSEMA recently sent a letter to operators to provide NOPSEMA with a list of HSRs on each facility, together with their contact phone numbers and email addresses. They're just liking to confirm that NOPSEMA are supportive of providing their, and I'm assuming it's that the HSRs, work phone numbers and work email addresses as opposed to personal information. Rod, is this a question for you?
Sorry, I thought Chris would jump in.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in, Rod.
Yep.
We are agnostic about whether we receive work contact details or personal contact details. That's up to the HSRs and I guess in consultation with the operators. It's just to enable us to fulfill our functions in terms of staying in touch with HSRs, but we're not prescribing what kind of phone number or email address that we get.
And the second question, Amanda, I'm happy to answer that. The question about refresher training must, in terms of its timing, the legislation is on or before the 12 months, on or after the 12-month anniversary of the last time training was done, whether that was the initial 5-day training or the previous refresher. So there is flexibility in terms of the practical nature of things, in terms of being able to A, get on a course, and B, align it with the HSR's, annual leave, etc. So obviously this is a new provision, so the current WA provider is just getting its head around putting courses up. I'm actually meeting with them this week. They have an approved course, so I'll be discussing it with them. But certainly there is some leniency when we're not going to be, totally strict on the has to be at 12 months. I suppose at the end of the day, it's within reason. So I think we wouldn't expect it to push out to, 2 years. But I would imagine that there should be a reasonably wide window to accommodate that refreshing training post the previous time that was undertaken.
Great, thanks for that, Rod. I've got a question from SO Room.
I see there's another online question about HSR.
Oh, yep, that one's just come through.
I can answer
that was
that.
from me, Jackie from Prelude. Just on the NOPSEMA accredited training providers, my understanding is at this stage is only the one doing the refresher that's been accredited. Another
Correct.
2 are in the process of developing, getting that accreditation. Will there be more?
It's up to the training providers to enter into that space. When NOPSEMA first started, there was, I think, 6 or 7 training providers, but there wasn't sufficient work, and a number of those dropped off. We now have 3 training providers that provide the 5-day course. One of them provides the refresher training. Of those 2 that are providing the 5-day course, they are considering doing the refresher training, but the obligation's on them to submit the course outline and course material to NOPSEMA for approval. I've yet to receive that from both of the other training providers, although I've been in constant contact with them, informing them of the curriculum. But at the end of the day, it's up to the training providers to submit the material and then obviously advertise the course. So the indications I'm getting from both of those are that they are keen, but at the end of the day, they need to submit the material to ourselves for approval. Whether there'll be more than 3, given that I suppose there's an increase in activity, it's up to the industry per se, given that there is onshore HSR training providers that deliver similar 5-day and refresher trainings that could seek approval and by sending to us their curriculum material. So I suppose it's a wait and see. The increase in refresher training may spark some more interest to a wider range of training providers. But at the end of the day, we don't go out there and manage that. That's a business opportunity for training providers to seek approval to NOPSEMA.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Esso.
Hi, Amanda. I just wanted to ask in relation to, you mentioned that online guidance has been updated to capture the requirements of the new regs. Just wanted to check some of the other guidance documents that are currently online, for example, psychosocial health. Is there a timing around when that will be updated to incorporate the new regs?
Yes, Chris, I'll throw to you on that one.
Yeah, I'll take that one, Amanda. Thank you. Yes, very broad timing on that. That project got put in abeyance when we lost our psychosocial SME in-house. We have a new person coming aboard in the next few months, and one of their tasks will be to complete that guidance. So I wouldn't put a timeline, I wouldn't put an end date on it, but I would say that we will prioritise that work and have that published as soon as practicable.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't have any other hands up at the moment or questions online. Do we have any other questions from anybody? Jason, we'll go to you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks. Probably just a broader one. So I noticed in the release of the documents earlier, there was I suppose an open door for further comments and feedback as industry kind of work through and adopt the new regs. What's NOPSEMA's preferred method? Because I'm just considering whether there's an opportunity there from members if there's kind of critical and acute issues going forward. If I can collate those and kind of revert them back to NOPSEMA, what's your preferred process there?
I'll jump in first for that, and then I'll throw to the specialists on board. I think from feedback and comments in general, it'll sort of depend on the nature of it. Ones that we're talking about here with the bans and the very specific ones, that's probably best to be worked on one-on-one in those areas, because we've got some very specific questions that are going to need that communication. If we're going into more of the generic style, we're always more than happy to have the collated information come in through yourself, Jason. Obviously you engage with us quite frequently. it's sort of going to depend on what's the nature and what's the desired outcome from it. So if it's looking more holistically over the board, like we did for the most recent consultation, more than happy, Jason, to have that come in a combined format that we can address as a group, as an NOPSEMA. Alternatively, if it is that more specific one-on-one feedback and comments, I think that would probably be best working with the individual focal points going through that. But I'll just throw to Chris and any of my specialists online if they have anything to add to that.
What I would say, Amanda, it's Chris. What I'd say is we really appreciated the information that did come through, Jason. And as you know, we have worked through that. And as Amanda said, we'll get back out to industry with what our feedback is on those specific line items. I think we should give the regulations and industry and ourselves an opportunity to settle out a bit before we at least enact any more changes. So I'd suggest that, happy for you to collate that information, Jason, but maybe we should hold back a little while before you submit it and before we action it, to give things a chance to settle out.
Thanks.
Amanda, I'm happy to answer a question that came online in relation to annual HSR refresher training. There's a comment in there that says, in relation to annual HSR refresher training, several NOPSEMA inspectors have advised that it's up to the individual HSR if they want refresher training and that it won't be enforced. Well, that's incorrect. The refresher training is an obligation under the Act. That a HSR does that training. We do not have any powers to force a HSR to do that, which is correct, but it is still an obligation to do the refresher training. There is, under the Act, a new clause for dismissal of a HSR which can be enacted by a work group member or an operator if they fail to do one of the grounds for dismissal of a HSR is not undertaking training. So NOPSEMA can't enforce that, but an operator or work group member can request that the HSR is dismissed if they don't do training. So the obligation is there to do the training, and there is a mechanism for the operator or individual work group member to request to NOPSEMA for the removal of HSR and one of the grounds is if they don't do the training. So I hope that clarifies that. It's incorrect to say that it's up to the individual HSR. No, it's an obligation under the Act to do the refresher training.
All right, thanks for that, Rod. So going back to Equinox.
Yeah, just back on the vessel activity notification. Will there be any additional guidance or clarity on this being issued by NOPSEMA, and if so, when?
Yes, given the interest that we've had today, it seems we have to. It warrants further guidance, particularly on the timings and the when is it required. The when is a good question. I'll get on it, but it's probably going to take a few weeks, if not a little bit longer. But yeah, we will get onto it and keep you guys informed when we've got some new guidance.
I'll just confirm there, when we have some more information on when that might be from Sam, I'll make sure it goes out to the participants of the information session so that you'll have the opportunity to get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll jump to some online questions again. We have one from Adam in relation to the monthly operational report. So Paul, this is probably going to you. We'd just like to get confirmation that pipelines that are facilities are outside of scope.
Thanks, Amanda. Sorry, the question was, are pipelines that are facilities out of scope for reporting requirements? Was that the question?
Yes, Paul, that's the question in the chat.
Yeah, so the requirement, if it gives you some direction, is that all operators of facilities have to report in the monthly reports, but put it in the context that the reports generally cover worker hours, worker injuries, number of workers. Obviously, a pipeline is not going to have any of those. What it does also require is the contacts for the particular facility. So, for instance, every facility must list who are all the emergency contacts. So that would still be a requirement for reporting purposes. But being a pipeline, my guess would be that that would just keep rotating over most months unless there's a change in particular persons that are changing within the organisation as the contact person. Does that answer the question?
Adam, do you need
Fine,
further
thank you.
clarification?
No, all good. Thank you.
Okay. Rod, we have another HSR question in the chat. Can HSRs undertake refresher training through WorkSafe approved RTOs?
Just a quick clarification there. RTOs are approved by a training body, not by regulators. But I do understand the question. RTOs do have a 5-day and refresher training course that is approved by WorkSafe. Those training authorities, the two that have NOPSEMA approved 5-day and refresher training, also deliver the WorkSafe equivalent. What those RTOs still need to do is submit the 1-day refresher curriculum to NOPSEMA, and NOPSEMA approves that curriculum. So the two that are in Perth at the moment both deliver a WorkSafe HSR course. If they submit their curriculum and we tick that off, then they would have a NOPSEMA approved refresher training course. So the one RTO most likely would be able to deliver both the WorkSafe one and the NOPSEMA one. People then ask, well, why doesn't the WorkSafe 5-day course be satisfying NOPSEMA's 5-day course? The reason being there is a lot of similarities, but there are also some significant differences given that offshore is a more hazardous area and we do run a safety case regime. So they are separate courses, albeit there is a fair bit of similar overlap.
Okay, great, Rod. We still have some more time today. We have another 12 minutes for any additional questions that are out there.
Amanda, it's Chris.
Yes, Chris.
Yeah, just go back to Graham's original question and taking the opportunity to have a look at Regulation 232, which is about the revision at the end of each 5-year period. And the regulation says within 14 days before the end of the 5-year period, beginning on the day the safety case was accepted by NOPSEMA under Section 226. So I think the appropriate date, Graham, is the first time that you had a safety case accepted by NOPSEMA.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, Chris. That was our interpretation as well, but unfortunately, different interpretation that was provided by our inspector. So I think we'll go back to the inspector, and okay. It was actually confirmed by Percy. So we'll circle back through our inspector to Percy and get clarification on that. It may well have just been a case of, unfortunately, the safety case was due on the 16th yesterday, which was very close to the 12th. And so it might have been that they wanted this 5-yearly submitted, and our future 5-yearlies may well be on a different date. Not sure yet. We'll get clarification. But thanks, understand your position, and that was the same interpretation as mine. And my concern was on the legal ramifications on having a date that isn't actually compliant with the regs. Hence the requirement for writing. But yeah, agreed. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Graham.
Okay, Adam.
It's Shivas hijacking Adam's piece of Shivas Lindsay and Woodside. During the some of the consultations, we were talking about the design notifications and the costs associated with it, because the regs are a bit silent on how much it will cost. It just says it will cost as much as it costs. And I think there was an undertaking to maybe. Sorry, I got muted there. I don't know what happened there. But anyway, so yeah, during the consultation, NOPSEMA said they would have a look at benchmarking what design notifications would have cost for the current fleet of assets. And I just wondered if that had happened. I'd imagine no, because you're very busy. But is there any intent on giving us at least a ballpark how much it would cost?
Chris, again, in the short term, no. If you have a proposed design notification upcoming, then talk to us and we will then be able to provide you with an hourly rate. We're not planning to give you an overall budget for a design notification because we've never done one before, so we don't have anything to base our hourly quote on. So we can give you an hourly rate, but we'd be just making it up if we tried to give you an overall cost.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
I've still got the hand up there for Adam. Is there a further question? Okay. Fred.
Yeah, just changing it a little bit here. Just have a question in relation to the new process for the startup notice for diving. It looks very similar now to an approval process, although it doesn't state approval, more acceptance or rejection of the startup. If there is going to be a rejection, is there a process for requesting additional information prior to rejection? What's the intent?
Hi, Fred. I think we'll need to get back to you on that one. I don't believe there's anyone who's involved in the new dive side on this call. Is that right, Amanda?
I don't think we have anyone on. I'm not sure Percy has joined us. He may have had some more from there, but I think he's still unavailable. But no, we'll get back to you on that one, Fred.
I think we'll need to get back to you on that, Fred.
Okay.
Could you, if possible, could you write your question in the chat just so I get it correct?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we've got another online question here. This one's in relation to sexual harassment, bullying or harassment, as well as incidents of mental ill health. Some of these instances may be managed internally by contractors, with the operator perhaps not always being made aware. Would like to confirm that in some instances, exceptions may need to be re-established for this information to be proactively provided to the operator for reporting purposes. Paul, is that one for you on reporting, or are we going with Chris for that one?
Yeah, happy for us both to answer this if required, Amanda. So I've just flicked open the regs. So the operator of the facility must give the written notice as soon as they become aware. And I think that's the trigger. So if you're the operator, you're on a facility, there's been an incident of sexual harassment, bullying or harassment, as soon as you become aware, you're required to effect the notification. And the expectation is that obviously if there are contractors on the facility, there'll be systems in place for the operator to be aware of any of those incidents on the facility. Does that answer the question?
I might just add in there that typically there is an arrangement within contracts that contractors make the operator aware of HR type incidents, whether they're harassment, bullying or harassment or other HR type incidents, that the operator is made aware of those things. So we would hope that that would be captured within your contracting arrangements.
So just on what Paul described there, would it be fair to say then that you could almost describe it as the operator becoming aware of an allegation is the threshold where it's expected to be reported, rather than taking the time to verify that allegation?
Absolutely, Skip. So our interpretation is that it's not waiting to verify that there has been an incident. It's becoming aware of an allegation of an incident is the trigger.
And I've just put something in the chat. And this could have been my misinterpretation, but I did think that initial report, we still had 30 days to gather all of the correct information on the bullying and harassment cases.
Yeah, so Paul here, I'll answer that one. So as soon as you become aware, the notification has to come in writing, and it's a de-identified notification made to the email address that's been set up for it. And then, yeah, you're right. There's a 30-day period after notifying NOPSEMA, where you can collate all the details and then make a further report. Like a lot of our reporting requirements, you can come to us and tell us that it's not complete. We're still gathering details. And then, of course, we can always consider if you need more time in order to provide that 30-day report.
Yeah, and as soon as, so sort of within a day or two of being notified, that initial email, and that's all it is. It's an email saying we've got an issue, more information to follow.
We've actually set up a form to try and make it easy for you. So
apologies. Yeah, I am aware of that. Apologies. I am aware of that. Yeah.
But send it in via an email. The idea is we've tried to make it as easy for you as we can. So there's a basic form you can put the and it's, as I said, a very simple form. Put the initial details in, make sure it's de-identified, submit the notification. You just send it in via email. We'll reply to say thank you, we've received it. And then you can use the second half of the same form to come back within 30 days and say, these are the actions that we've taken or proposed to take to deal with the incident.
Thank you.
And I think presumably this is coming in that guidance down the track, Chris, in terms of having the appropriate resource. Earlier questions around things like where the alleged victim doesn't want anything to proceed and other sort of tricky topics like that. There's more guidance to follow.
Yeah, there is more violent guidance to follow, Skip. But I wouldn't guarantee that's exactly in there. But I hear what you're saying.
Chris and Paul, just jump to the chat. I'll make this the last one for now because I'm conscious we're running out of time. It's just in relation to notification of bullying and harassment. In the last information session, it was confirmed that the allegation had to be substantiated. This would only be determined through a preliminary investigation. So can we provide some advice on that?
Yeah, I think that's actually incorrect, Amanda. The guidance, and hopefully this is what we conveyed in the last session. It's clearly not once it's substantiated. And when you think about what that requirement is, if you needed to substantiate it, you would go off, do your normal investigation. It would take quite some time. Witnesses, experts, medical evidence, etc. That's quite a long time period. That is not the requirement here. So the requirement for the notification is as soon as you become aware. And the advice that we've received is it's very broad in application. And to give a bit of clarification on why do we want to know as soon as possible, it's so that if NOPSEMA is contacted by a victim, a union, or a HSR, we want to be aware of that information. So if we get contacted directly, as we do, we can say, yep, we're aware of that complaint and we've got it on record. So just so we're clear, it is notify NOPSEMA as soon as you become aware, not once you've investigated and substantiated whether it is a legitimate complaint or not.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Okay, we've hit our 1 hour mark for today's information session, and there's been a lot of good conversation and chat into here. Please do feel free to reach out to us if you have further questions. We've already made some commitments here to do some more targeted sessions around the vessel notification scheme. So we are available to answer questions. We are putting out our guidance, and we'll continue to put out our additional guidance as we go on. As mentioned, the psychosocial information is just waiting on our expert to come on board as well, so we can provide some more guidance in that space. But we do thank you for participating in these sessions. This has been a new process that we've brought into NOPSEMA to try and improve the communication when we do have these regulation changes coming into play. So I do thank you for your participation and your involvement. The session will be made available online post this, so anybody who needs to watch it back, or if you need to pass on to additional colleagues, please do so. And we thank you once again for your participation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.